The opinions, views, and conclusions expressed in this show are those of the show host and co-host and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of KPFV FM or its affiliates.
Astral Underground with your host, Leslie McQuaid, exploring the esoteric and paranormal through applied anthropology and archaeology, understanding the role that all these ideas play in your day-to-day life. If you've had a paranormal experience, I want to hear about it. Call in to Astral Underground with your host, archaeologist and anthropologist, Leslie McQuaid. To you as you are watching television or watching any other screen. You see, here in the United States, the flash rates, the rates at which those images on your screen refresh themselves, is between 30 and 40 flashes per second. And it just so happens that that is the ideal rate at which to induce a hypnotic state. Now, isn't it interesting that at the beginning of especially the BBC NewsHour, the images that you see at the beginning are incredibly hypnotic. In fact, I think they rival anything I have ever seen at a rave. They're really well put together images. But the idea that I'm trying to get across is that they are hypnotic images, and there are a lot of hypnotic images on the television. This is important because the main job of your television is to program you with a new culture. Now, you may not realize you're being programmed with a new culture because what you're looking at looks roughly similar to what you see going on around you. You see people dressed in roughly the same way with roughly the same haircuts and manners of living. But what is different is the way they handle themselves. Something I've noticed over the years is that as the United States moves further and further from, I would say, our constitutional ideal. And by that, I mean, our constitutional ideal doesn't leave a lot of space for mass media. You see, mass media, for the most part, is leisure. I know people like to take media very seriously, but in fact, most people take in media as primarily a source of entertainment and secondarily as a source of information. And this is where the initial disconnect comes. How many times have you heard a parent tell a child that what you see on the television isn't real? No, I'm sorry, there really isn't a 6-foot tall bird that's 6 years old and bright yellow. That's imaginary, just like Mr. Snuffleupagus. But what's not imaginary is the way that actual useful information has been. Sorry about the interruption, folks. Actual useful information is mixed in with this fictitious world. And because of that, it is absolutely critical for people to understand that you don't always have up the blinders that you need in order to be able to take in the information safely. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that your television is actually a weapon. Your television is a weapon on many different levels. It's a sonic weapon. There are sounds that come through the television that are inaudible to most people, but are perfectly audible to the young. And we find the same in our cell phones. I think it was, as little as 5 years ago, there were complaints by parents that kids could download ringtones that couldn't be heard by adults because adults had so much hearing damage that the upper registers were invisible to them. And so children could very clearly hear ringtones from their friends that were absolutely inaudible to the adults in the room. This is what I mean by things being hidden in plain sight. And it feeds back into the hypnosis. You see, the flash rates are important because even first year hypnosis students understand that a strobe light by itself can induce hypnotic trance. That's one of the reasons why dancing is a way of eliciting these trance states, because it doesn't have to do with just the movements that you're making, but it also has to do with the flashing of the light. And you see, in the past, that flashing light would have been firelight. Today, that flashing light comes in the form of course, disco lights or the lights that you see at the rave. Those flash rates being used at the rave, and many times are the same as the flash rates coming through you to your nightly news. And I continue to go back to the example of the BBC because they have the most blatantly hypnotic logo I have ever seen in my entire life. It is like its own space journey. If you've ever watched the BBC logo entry. And this hypnotic state, once you're into alpha, once your brain waves enter into that alpha state, then you suspend disbelief and your defenses come down. You allow the unusual and the unexpected to seem normal. And in this situation, you're very susceptible to reprogramming. This reprogramming is, in fact, the whole point of television programming. Television has done more to rewire the American culture than probably any other single factor that this anthropologist can identify. We happen to be living in a nation where we are witnessing once again the unholy alliance between government and corporations. Now, this has been accurately described as fascism. And I, I think that what we're moving into is a combination feudalist system with fascist overtones and a communist police state. A communist socialist police state, big corporations over top of it, mandating everything from healthcare to nutrition, to education. I don't think people realize the true danger of allowing corporations into our schools. I'm very sensitive to this, having come from a coal mining state where script money was the thing. But I want to get back to the hypnosis because so many people don't realize that they're hypnotized. Um, the the hypnotism that you're under is so subtle. It's right inside your subconscious. And when it comes to your thoughts and that private space in your own mind, this is the last frontier, and this is the modern battlefield. The modern battlefield is really right between your ears, because what's happening right now is there are political interests that are fighting for your attention. And they're fighting for your attention through the stories that they tell you of what is going on. Now, there are those who want to hear reality. They want to hear the truth of what's going on. They want to hear in the news a reflection of what they actually see in reality. And then there are those who prefer to watch news that matches what they wish reality was and will alter reality. Not alter reality, they'll alter their presentation of the news in order to present that idealized world. And this propensity for illusion is so common because of the actions of Hollywood and because our news is appearing to us on a format that every child knows delivers fiction. It it seems to me that we have accepted this to our detriment because everyone understands that what they're seeing on television doesn't necessarily reflect reality, and yet everyone accepts what's coming through them to them on the television as reality and act based on those assumptions. Now, let me give you an example. And this is why I think of it because, one of the hallmarks of a hypnotized person and one of the things that I actually used to do for clients who paid for this particular service in hypnosis is to install a trigger word. A trigger word is a word that when you hear it, elicits the new desirable behavior. Now, primarily, I was working with dieting clients and smoking cessation. And for anyone who's ever tried to stop smoking, it can be very difficult. But if you truly do want to stop, if you really want to stop and you're not just fiddling around with it or saying that you'll do it because of whatever reason, hypnosis will work for you. Hypnosis will certainly work for smoking cessation if you know you want to stop. Because what hypnosis does is works on your subconscious and removes your internal objections to the change. You see, change is one of the most difficult things for human beings to do. People hate to change. I am absolutely guilty as charged. I would love to continue in some of my patterns. Some of my patterns are very comforting and very pleasing to me. There are other patterns, however, that I would seek to modify. Now, when it comes to smoking, and this is from my experience with clients through hypnosis, the people who really want to stop smoking, when you take them into the hypnotic induction, they go into hypnosis very easily, enter deeply into hypnosis, and stay in hypnosis for as long as demanded by the hypnotist, and also follows the cues. Because as you know, as the hypnotist is working with the hypnotized patient, I will ask cues. If you understand me, please wiggle one finger or move your foot. Just a small indication, not anything that takes a lot of conscious thought, because that's the last thing you want to happen when you're trying to hypnotize someone. You don't want any conscious thought, and that's why falling asleep in front of the television is one of the most damaging things you can possibly do to yourself, because your subconscious is already wide open from the flash rates on the television screen, not to mention any possible speed inductions that may have been delivered through neuro-linguistic programming techniques by the people on the screen. Then you fall asleep and allow your subconscious to kind of float, because there's a long distance between when you're falling asleep and when you're actually asleep, when complete suspension of disbelief, even more so than when you are simply watching television and allowing yourself to naturally drift into that alpha state. You see, the brain has four primary brain wave patterns: alpha, beta, delta, and gamma. And those primary groups of waves are how scientists describe the activities going on in the brain. If you're just joining us, you're listening to Astral Underground on 98.1 FM, Pahrumps Educational Broadcast Station. And we're talking about hypnosis, and especially the hypnosis that you're subjected to through your television screen, through your computer screen, and even through the screen on your phone. You see, these flash rates cause you to enter into the alpha state, where you're in a very relaxed state, but active. Relaxed but active. That's the key. You see, when you get into delta waves, you're out. You're completely out cold. You are not even dreaming at that point. Alpha waves, however, you're awake, your mind is alert, but your body is very, very relaxed. And it's in this state, which is actually the desirable meditative state, that your subconscious is most wide open to suggestion. And the suggestions that are coming in from mainstream broadcasting are not really the ones you want to have programmed into you. I cannot stress enough how important it is for you to stop falling asleep in front of the television if you want to do things like improve your physical health, improve your memory, and improve your ability to interact with others. And this is because this hypnosis, uh, it it sets up what like a mind virus, okay? And it's the trigger word that does that. Now, when I was working with the smoking cessation patients, one patient asked me to trigger within her nausea anytime she heard the word Marlboro, because that's what she smoked. And she wanted to make it such that every time she said Marlboro, it kind of made her gaggy and barfy, which is, Marlboro is a good word for that because it already kind of is in the back of your throat and kind of gaggy sound. And so I gave her this suggestion, and she found that it was absolutely effective, that it solved both problems. She had been concerned that in using hypnosis for smoking cessation, she would stop smoking but accidentally gain weight, because that's what happens to most people when they stop smoking. But by also implanting the autosuggestion that upon hearing the word Marlboro, she would be gaggy sick over the thought of smoking, that would also make it easier for her to lose weight, because normally what people do is when they can't have their cigarette, they eat something. But if you've just gagged, you see, then you don't think about eating anything. And so we both decided that this was just genius, and so we set it up, and it worked out just fine. But she had to be very careful about people who saw or knew, because she didn't want it to become a parlor trick to say, "Oh, look, over there's Marla. Watch this." And but the point is of the trigger word, and there are other trigger words as well. People who are trying to break other bad habits, like biting their nails. All you have to do is again give them a trigger word like pineapple. And even though it sounds ridiculous, if someone is biting their nails and they want to quit biting their nails, all they have to do is say out loud pineapple after a proper hypnosis session, and the desire to chew on their fingernails will automatically disappear. This is the beauty of hypnosis. And this is why I wanted to talk about hypnosis today, because my husband's friend Carlos, this PhD from Germany, has contacted us and sent a scathing email because he was completely triggered by my husband's mention of Trump in the email. And that's when it dawned on me. He's hypnotized. He is part of academia. He's over there in Europe, where things are a little more far gone than they are here. And he is hypnotized. He's absolutely hypnotized. And there's the proof. He has responded to a trigger word in a prescribed way. Now, I ask you, when you look around at all these people who have Trump derangement, and they call it Trump derangement syndrome. No, no, no. I think they are the victims of mass hypnosis. Mass hypnosis induced by a combination of flash rates and neurolinguistic programming cues from the news readers on these large platforms that are controlled primarily by China, who is, in case you haven't noticed, warring against us in unconventional ways, like through media and through taking over our institutions. So, this hypnosis problem, there's ways to break hypnosis, but first you have to recognize that you've been hypnotized. There's no way to awaken from a hypnotist spell until you understand that you have in fact been hypnotized. And what's the easiest way to see if you've been hypnotized? Well, is there a word that triggers you? Is there a word that when you hear it makes you flip out, makes you absolutely you lose your and just want to do something, break something, or run, or scream at someone, or when someone says a particular word, do you have such a visceral reaction that you cannot even make a logical response? You simply want to bark at them. That happened to me in a park not too long ago. I was talking about these sorts of things, and it triggered someone so badly. The only thing they could do was bark at me. And I thought to myself, that again, that is someone who is under deep hypnotic suggestion, because that is not how human beings act. Human beings do not bark. It's just that's the most incredible thing I've ever seen. So, okay. So, you've identified within yourself that, oh, I've got a trigger word. Well, perhaps this means that I have been hypnotized. And I'm telling you, there are a lot of people who have been hypnotized against their will. And in particular, I want to talk about the Travis Scott concert, this rap concert that took place in Houston. In excess of 50,000 people in the crowd. Latest reports are about 300 plus injured, and the death toll is somewhere between 8 and 11. We're certain 8 have passed, but reports have been as high as 11. I have confirmed for myself through my own research, for sure 9, but I'm not commenting on the other 2 or 3. Now, what I do find really peculiar about this event, yes, it's incredibly satanic, and it's exactly the type of mass satanic ritual that people don't realize they're participating in. And this also carries with it a level of the hypnosis. And the hypnosis is, why did they want to go in the first place? I mean, these concerts are known to be dangerous. People are known to get trampled at these things. And people are known to, see and experience very horrible things at rock concerts. I remember I had the great fortune to go to I went to a very large rock concert in 2007 in Kentucky, and when our food vending vans were leaving, because I was part of a restaurant there, when we were leaving, you would see there would be like just out in the middle of the parking lot a tent, and it looked like somebody hadn't gotten back yet, hadn't even started packing. And I looked over at one of my friends and I said, gosh, there seem to be a lot of people who are really just waiting until the absolute last minute to leave. Do you think they're lost or something? And because it was the first big rock concert I'd ever been to, okay? And the driver of the refrigerated truck looks over at me and says, oh no, darling, you don't understand. Those people have disappeared. They're probably dead or worse. Nobody knows what happens to them. People disappear at rock concerts all the time. But, we rainbows, we say, you don't touch any of that stuff. Creeville's somewhere else. But that stuff's cursed. Don't touch it. And I thought to myself, well, this is a very fascinating piece of microculture that I have run into, that the Rainbow Tribe has accepted the fact that there are actual casualties at rock concerts, and that's just kind of to be expected. People disappear, people run off, people get swiped. And that's just what happens at rock concerts, and it always has. This concert is very different, however. And the reason is because the the actual person, the artist who was singing, did not respond with proper decorum. Now, I have been watching reports ever since this happened, trying to get a bead on what do the people who listen to this kind of music, because I don't listen to this kind of music, this is not my scene, but I want to know, what do these people think? What are they really thinking? And I'll tell you what, this Travis Scott guy, he has pissed off so many people with his reaction to this. They are not pleased with how he responded. And in fact, one of the DJ Delphi, DJ DELFE, he spent 2.5 hours breaking down why he, even though he is an absolute sneaker addict, because he's DJ Delt's the sneaker addict, right? And he's an important figure in this particular musical genre. A lot of people listen to him. He has a lot of people's respect. This is why I sought out his opinion on this. And his opinion is that there is something very sick and wrong going on with this Travis Scott guy. DJ Delts showed video of other rappers in exactly the same situation, behaving 180 degrees differently. This guy, Travis Scott, was cold. He did not care. He literally waved people off who were trying to tell him to stop. He told the crowd to impede the progress of an ambulance attempting to bring life-saving services to the people who had been trampled. He sang to the people dying as they were dying. He actually went into some sort of semi-catatonic state at one point and began murmuring, singing some sort of a weird voice modulated electronic sounding chant. It was all incredibly satanic. And really, I think it was very pre-planned. It was pre-planned at an extent that I would have never expected this. And what makes me absolutely certain that this was pre-planned is that there is a YouTube channel called Unlimit Creations, UNLIMIT Creations, CREATIONS, on YouTube. And I very much encourage you to go look at this, because I cite this as proof that this was planned. Now, this particular YouTube channel, it was started December 6th of 2017, but they only started posting a month ago. And what did they start posting? Just dumb TikTok scary stuff, right? But it's TikTok scary stuff. And TikTok is China. And you know what? China has got enough people that they can sit around and pay people to do little things like this all day long. I don't think you understand how many people they have. A billion. They have over 1 billion people. Do you know how that measures up to 380 million? We are spit in the ocean compared to the population of China. So if you think that there is something going on that requires too much manpower to actually be true, I encourage you to go check yourself and run some ratios and proportions on the relative number of people between the United States and China. Because what you're going to discover is that they have enough people till they can literally throw them at us, which is exactly what they're doing with their replacement migration. We are literally being bombed with people at the behest of the UN and China. And the longer we put up with this by buying things from China, that I find incredibly ridiculous and outrageous, that we buy things from those who would enslave us, who already have slaves. If you're just joining us, you're listening to Astral Underground on 98.1 Pahrumps Educational Broadcast Station. And we're talking about hypnosis and flash rates and the danger of hypnosis in our modern world. Now, I think that some of these people at the Travis Scott concert were definitely hypnotized, because what have you got there at that rock concert? You've got not only flash rates, but you've got that deep bass sound. And that deep bass sound is also hypnotic. Those sounds can do things to you that you have not even probably thought of. Has anyone ever heard of the brown note? Do you know what the brown note is? There is an actual vibrational frequency that, if played long and loud and a human being hears it, it automatically causes the human being to evacuate their bowels. Ergo, its name, the brown note. And the brown note has been programmed into sonic cannons used for crowd control. Because if you want an unruly crowd to calm down, one of the ways you can do it, if you don't want to just aggravate them with water cannons, is you can humiliate them by blasting them with a sonic blast that causes everyone to spontaneously crap their pants. Then everyone is going to leave the demonstration and go home, because nobody wants to demonstrate with feces trickling down their leg, right? Okay, so these are the types of weapons that are going to be used against us in the future if we don't stand up and do something about it now. Now is the time that we do something, because now is when we have the opportunity to do something. Why do you want to wait until the seed has grown into a full grown oak? Why not while we have the opportunity to nip it in the bud? Why do we not simply walk up to this problem and pinch off the head, rather than wait until it's going to require a chainsaw and a logging team to remove whatever is entrancing itself here? Now, back to the Travis Scott concert as a satanic offering. Yes, I believe it was. Partly because, again, the opening to the Travis Scott concert was straight out of a Hieronymus Bosch painting. Straight out of it. You have the option. You can walk into the mouth, or, you can walk around it. I was astonished to see the number of people who were walking into it. But then there are a lot of people who really think that he is an amazing musician. That and it kind of surprises me. Because after listening to the parts of the concert and listening to other rap artists discuss the concert, they don't even really think his music is that great. They are as a group convinced that there is something different going on with Travis Scott, that there may have been other artists where it was uncertain as to whether their satanic leanings were authentic, or whether they were just a put on to satisfy some sort of strange clause in their contract. But the thing going on at the Travis Scott concert was seen by the participants who were there as a satanic event. And as an anthropologist, I want to impress upon you the importance of listening to the participant observer's report. There is no reason on earth not to trust the eyewitness reports of these people. And I will tell you why. Because there's so many who want to tell you that eyewitnesses are not reliable. That is not the case here. And the reason why is that here we are dealing with something that at its core is emotional. And that emotional content comes from within. And the reporting that one gives of the interior action, the interior thoughts and experiences, that is the core of what anthropology does. It's about the learned and shared ways of thinking, feeling, and behaving. And you see all of those originate where? Right between your ears, in the room of your mind. This is why hypnosis is so dangerous, because it attacks you where you are centered. When you are centered in yourself, your internal emotional experience is, for the most part, calm and manageable. When you have been subjected to involuntary hypnosis, and there are several different ways that you can induce someone into a hypnotic state against their will. The easiest way to do that is with trauma. Trauma will immediately throw you into a hypnotic state. Why? Because this is how the body deals with pain and trauma, by zoning out, by allowing the brain to have a test pattern. And when you are in those hyper stressful situations, those are the times when you are most easily brought into hypnotic suggestion. And it's not just through trauma that you can be accidentally hypnotized. Brainwashing is hypnosis. I'll say it again, brainwashing is hypnosis. It's just involuntary hypnosis. When I talk about helping people to stop smoking, that is voluntary hypnosis. People are saying, yes, please hypnotize me. I have got to stop this habit. It's literally killing me. Although, you know what? I read a report online today that made me, you know what? It got a double eye roll and a double face palm when I saw this story online. Do you know that there are actual hypnosis companies out there who are advertising a service to hypnotize you so that you forget that you have watched a television series, so that you can watch it again as if it was the very first time you'd ever seen it? I cannot believe this, that there's already a company that's advertising to wipe your memory so that you can enjoy something. This is dangerous because, if you try and wipe your memory too much, it gives you post traumatic stress disorder, PSTD, or I'm terribly dyslexic. Those letters always mess me up. PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder, can be caused by over hypnosis, over brainwashing. And this is, in fact, what the mind virus is. And there's all kinds of ways that you can unhypnotize yourself. But the very first thing you have to recognize is that you have been hypnotized. You see, Alan Dulles of the CIA knew that by slowly traumatizing the public with terrorizing news coverage of agonizing fear, that it would traumatize people enough to stay home and obey. And that's what we're seeing again now, with all the lockdowns, with all the fear, with all the replacement migration that's going on. These are all things that are causing fear, intimidation, confusion, distraction, dividing and conquering. All these are forms of daily trauma, and it's force-fed to us today through every channel. Every channel, even if it's not a news program, it's going to be one of our entertainment programs that has what? Torture. Do you remember when we used to be able to watch an entire hour-long television show and see not one single second of torture? Do you know that one of the reasons why I don't watch television anymore is because as soon as I see torture, I turn it off. I turn off the screen as soon as I see that first instant of torture. Why? Because I understand why I'm being shown the torture. The repeated trauma and watching others react to the same trauma slowly hypnotizes us into believing the world is worse than it actually is. At the subconscious level, you don't even recognize it unless you know what you're looking for. And that's why I'm talking to you about hypnosis today, because I want you to know that you can wake yourself up. You can wake up others from this hypnotic spell. Everyone who has accidentally become hypnotized, you have to understand that it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you're weak. It just means that you have run into a black magician. Now, you see, I do practice magic. The magic I practice is the magic of Jesus Christ. And I know that sounds contradictory. It's all based on some archaeological documents that were found in Egypt. And it's a topic for another show. Suffice it to say that there's a type of Jesus magic out there that I practice. It's light magic. white magic, bright magic, healing magic, the magic of life and light, in contrast to black magic, the magic of death and slavery. Now, magical orders have had these techniques of hypnosis covered under initiatic seals of secrecy for thousands of years, because magicians and priests and priestesses have recognized that these are very dangerous techniques in unethical hands. In ethical hands, the technique of hypnosis can work wonders. It can cure so many illnesses if hypnosis is allowed to be practiced in its safest and most beneficial way. But the problem is that there are those black magicians who have techniques for brainwashing people and enslaving them against their own will. And, I'm just going to bring up pickup artists as a group. Now, I have a lot of male friends, and many of them have used the pickup artist techniques, right? Those pickup artist techniques are called speed inductions. It's a type of hypnosis. And, I feel kind of bad for the women who get sucked in by these pickup artists, because really, once you know what the game is that they're playing, once you understand that it's a speed hypnosis induction, that they're using neuro-linguistic programming in order to elicit certain responses, then the game is up and you can have a lot of fun. Because I tell you what, there's nothing more fun for a lady than to study up on all these pickup artist techniques and then go try and find a pickup artist at a bar and give them a turn for their money. It is hysterical. Anyway, side story. What I'm getting at is that there are people out there who want to hurt you, who want to enslave you, who want something from you. Ladies, especially you. These pickup artists using these lines, they're using a type of hypnosis. And because you're drunk, because you're in a room with a bunch of flashing lights and dooch, 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 it's going to be really easy to get hypnotized by what's going on. So how do you defend yourself against this? Well, the magic of light that I'm talking about is a solar life force, and it is a way of summoning higher powers in the light, angelic powers, ancestral powers, divine powers in the light, and wielding those powers against those who slum it and reach down into the muck and the ick of the magic of darkness. Now, the magic of light is a scientific prayer, and just like the mind virus, just like hypnosis itself, this prayer works directly with your subconscious mind. It combines the same types of hypnotic and neuro-linguistic programming cues as all this negative stuff, but it reworks it in a positive way, so that not only are you going to be able to remove all of this negative programming that you've been bombarded with for who knows how long, but you're going to be replacing it with the types of intentions and the type of focus and the type of drive that you need in order to get where you're going in life. Now, you're going to supercharge those intentions by bringing in these higher energies and getting them from this other dimension. Because you see, the whole point of this hypnosis is so that we don't notice that we're being invaded. We're being invaded, in fact, from another dimension. And you know what? If you think that what I'm saying sounds like a bunch of bunk, then you're stupid, because we live in the 21st century. And as an anthropologist, I can tell you the future is not evenly distributed, and we've been left in the dust. If you're just joining us, you're listening to Astral Underground on Pahrump KPFV 98.1 Community Radio, educational broadcast service. And we're talking about hypnosis. We're talking about the Travis Scott concert. And we're talking about how you can protect yourself against the onslaught of satanic forces that are obviously all around us. Now, look, I'm a Wiccan high priestess. And I'm telling you about the magic of Jesus and about the satanic influences. Now, why is a Wiccan high priestess talking about these things? Because it's the freaking end of the world, people. I don't know if you've noticed, but the ruling elite have decided to pull the plug on the whole mess. They're done. They're ready. They're ready to exterminate us all. That's what the murder, death, kill shot is all about. That's what all this is all about. The poison in the food, the poison in the water, the poison in the air, the poison in the media. All that poisons your mind, so you can't pay attention. So you're all hypnotized out, and you're like, wow, what time is it? Am I really here? What's going on? Oh, gosh, look at the pretty rockets. Yeah, little monkey, it's the 21st century, and there's an invading force trying to steal your planet out from under you, telling that you're worthless, that you need to just shrivel up and die. What is that all about? I tell you, it is an invading force seeking to remove you from your birthright. This entire planet is your birthright. And if you allow interdimensional forces, which were talked about in Revelation, talked about in the Bible from a long time ago, you are never going to savvy onto the idea that the real enemy is China. We need to be aware that the hypnosis coming to us from Hollywood, a lot of it is coming from China. This is a type of unrestricted warfare, and this unrestricted warfare is what's going to be the death of our nation. We need to wake up and realize that we are in a battle. The battlefield is between your ears. It starts with the hypnosis, because when you are hypnotized, you are not paying attention to what's going on around you. You're just letting everything slide. And what was it that the founding fathers said? All that is required for evil to succeed is for good men to stand by and do nothing. And what are we doing when we are hypnotized? We are doing exactly that. Nothing. We're laying there in our chemically induced stupors, watching the pretty flashy screens, not paying attention to the fact that we no longer have half the rights enumerated in the Constitution. When was the last time you were really able to speak your mind, say exactly what you were thinking without any fear at all? Without having to second guess what you were going to say, without even having to watch your tongue. When was the last time you could do that? I tell you, if you say that it has been longer than 30 seconds, then you're not living up to your birthright as an American. We are mouthy people, and that's how we're going to get through this. We need to talk to each other about what we see. We need to be bold. Talk to people we've never talked to before. Start up conversations randomly with people in the grocery store. If you see someone in the grocery store and you think you want to talk to them about something, find something to talk to them about. We need to be interacting with each other more. Why? If for no other reason, then that's exactly what they don't want. And this is part of organized, nonviolent noncompliance. The first act of noncompliance is that we start running our mouths. They want us to shut up. We don't shut up. We talk. We talk to each other. We talk about the things going on. We talk about what we're doing in our lives. I've taken a full course of ivermectin. I've taken a full course of quercetin as well. These things help keep me healthy. I take vitamin C every day, a lot of it, 3 grams of vitamin C a day. Why? Because it keeps you healthy. I eat 4 eggs a day. Why? Because it keeps you healthy. And right now, our best defense is keeping ourselves healthy. Our physical bodies, yes, but also our spiritual bodies. And you keep your spiritual body healthy by recognizing the danger of watching these flashing screens. With practice, you will be able to connect your body and mind deeply on a level so that you can never be traumatized or influenced again. You can harness your intention instead of always being distracted. You can harness your imagination instead of letting someone else show you pretty pictures. You can harness the true vibrations of your soul rather than allowing yourself to just be blown about by the winds of chance. You can find love and live in pureness and contentment instead of being frightful all the time. You can totally rewire your subconscious mind and reprogram yourself for success and happiness. But you have to first realize that you need to be deprogrammed. And how do you know if you have been accidentally hypnotized against your will? Well, the easiest way is, do you have a trigger word? Is there anything that I've said that I've been talking about that when I say it makes you want to fly into a rage? If I've said something that makes you want to fly into a rage, you really need to examine that. That's your watershed moment. That's when you're finding out where the illness is. Was it when I said Trump? Does every time I say Trump, does it make your heart beat a little crazy? Do you get tense? Okay, well, then let's look at how we're going to deprogram that. How are we going to get you to a place where you begin to act normal again? Because I assure you that freaking out every time you hear the name Trump is not normal. It's the sign of someone who has a very, very serious mental condition. Not one that can't be reversed. It is dangerous. It is something that needs to be healed, but it can be healed. And all you have to do to heal this is first recognize that you have been hypnotized. Next, what do you need to do? Well, you need to understand that by consciously breathing in the light, and I know this sounds so simple, this is the beauty of this. This is why I know this is going to work for you, because it is so incredibly simple. Breathe in the light. All you have to do in order to begin to break the spell of hypnosis that you find yourself under is to each and every time when you feel like that, when you feel like gosh, maybe that is that brainwashing that lady was talking about. Think to yourself, I am breathing in the light and the truth. And when you exhale, just visualize thick green smoke coming out of your mouth, all this icky impurity, all of the pain, all of the suffering, all of the fear. Just visualize that leaving you as you exhale. And then inhale more light. And as you inhale the light consciously, and as you exhale the darkness consciously, what that's going to do is it's going to feed your brain. It's going to feed your brain lots of oxygen, but it's also going to feed your mind those little bits of energy that exist free floating in our environment. This is something Nikola Tesla talked about, and maybe we'll get into it longer in another show, but for now, suffice it to say that there's free floating energy in our environment that we absorb. Isn't that a mind blower? We absorb this energy naturally. It just leaks into us as part of our existence as a bioenergetic entity. We are bioenergetic because as a biological entity, we create this electrical energy. And that electrical energy has a pulse rate. And that pulse rate is interestingly activated best at what? 30 to 40 flashes per second. Now we're right back to hypnosis, because hypnosis is dealing with the energetic part of you more than the physical part of you. You see, hypnosis works on the energetic portion of you to drive the physical portion of you, because that is what you are as an entity. You as a human being have a physical portion, you have a spiritual portion. The spiritual portion of you is what drives the material portion of you. When the spiritual portion goes away, like in a coma, the body lies inactive. When the body lies inactive and the spirit is present, then you have the fully awake paraplegic who communicates by puffing on a straw. It is the spirit within that is the important aspect in animating the flesh. And it is the spirit that becomes hypnotized through the flash rates seen through the physical body. Flash rates. Please, if you don't do anything else, I beg you, please stop falling asleep in front of the television. The 30 to 40 flashes per second are specifically designed to make you sleepy, to make you want to fall asleep. That's why people think that, I'll just watch a little TV to help me fall asleep. That's like the worst thing you can do, because what you're doing is you're allowing yourself to be programmed. You are allowing your mind to just take in whatever garbage is going to be belched out of that thing at whatever hour you decided to park your butt in front of it. And that's not safe. It's not healthy. And I'm telling you, if you start really separating yourself from the screen and asking yourself some very basic questions in the quiet times of the day, ask yourself, how do I really feel about, and then fill in the blank with the current political issue. And I encourage you to recognize when it is your own opinion and when it is a piece of text that you find yourself repeating. You see, this is really critical. There's a lot of people out there who think they're smart, who think they know a lot of stuff, who do nothing but repeat snippets of text. These are other people's words that they've memorized and paraphrased, regurgitated ad nauseum, because this is what the universities teach us to do. And at the university, that is what passes for knowledge, as the old 60s song laughs about, right? Knowledge comes from consideration and meditation on these ideas in the quiet, and you developing your own ideas about what these mean, not just reaching a piece of text and saying, oh, well, that's what Al Gore thinks. So I think I'm going to go ahead and believe what Al Gore thinks because he's a very smart man. No, Al Gore is not very smart. And I'm pretty certain that 9 out of 10 people doing the same level of research that Al Gore has done is going to come to a radically different conclusion because they're actually looking at the real evidence and not just whatever is going to be paying the most. Trust yourself. Trust yourself. Trust your ability to do research. Trust your thoughts. Don't constantly give over your own power to others by not taking the time to seriously consider what you think about things. Now, this Travis Scott concert, I have chewed this thing up for 4 or 5 days now. And the thing that alarms me the most, and in these last 2 minutes, I'm going to tell you, when I was being trained by a certain 3-letter agency to do certain things, I was warned and I was told to stop going to rock concerts, especially ones where there's a lot of jewelry worn. I was warned that there were going to be people who had drugs in needles, in claws, in pieces of jewelry, and that they would be walking up and dosing you against your will in these concerts. I was told that 7 years ago. And it happened at this Travis Scott concert for the first time. Security officers were drugged. There is one security officer who was reaching out to control a citizen who was getting outrageous. And when he reached out, he was stabbed in the neck by a needle, dropped to the ground. They administered a narc pack to help him recover from the narcotics overdose that he was experiencing. And then they discovered that, yes, there was, in fact, a prick on his neck showing that he had been drugged. And I'm telling you, this is on purpose. This Travis Scott concert, this was a satanic sacrifice. I encourage you to go to Unlimited Creations, brand new station, only been on for a month, but somehow they've got 280,000 people paying attention to them about this concert. Even the media coverage of this concert has been staged. It is a staged event. It was done because he's got to make his bones somehow. All these cats have got to do their human sacrifice rituals. And now, well, I guess now he's part of the big boys club. And this is why you need to be wide awake so that you don't get sucked in. You need to be wide awake. You need to be aware that you can be hypnotized by your television screen. Please wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Do not allow yourself to be hypnotized. Now, I want to thank you so much for tuning in today to Astral Underground. I'm really looking forward to hearing your calls. I'd like you to call in. Tell me about your experiences. What are you seeing? What satanic rituals do you see going on around you? What things do you think we should be focusing on? What would you like to hear this applied anthropologist talk about next? Next, we'll be here Wednesday at 6 p.m., 98.1 KPFV Community Radio right here in Pahrump.